These stories start so ordinary that you'll think nothing unusual is about to happen, but within minutes, everything turns completely unsettling. In this video, you're about to experience 10 of the most disturbing true stories ever shared, and after some of them, you might not want to turn the lights off again. If you're ready, let's get into the video. At 16 years old, I was dating my first girlfriend. We lived in a university area. It was a very quiet neighborhood. My girlfriend Casey lived only 5 minutes away from me, so I went to her place almost every day. One day, I was once again walking to Casey's house late at night. The street was completely silent. After a while, I started hearing noises behind me. The first thing I heard sounded like a dog's leash jingling. I didn't think much of it and just started walking a bit faster. Then I heard another sound. It sounded like metal scraping or a small knife hitting the pavement. This time I stopped and turned around. I saw a tall man in the distance. He had a large dog with him. I immediately called Casey and told her I was scared because it was very strange that this man was following me without making any sound. Casey looked out of her window and laughed at first while reacting on the phone. Then suddenly her tone changed and she said, "Who is the man behind you?" When I turned around, I saw that the man was now very close to me. I panicked and started running toward Casey's house. The man jumped at me and tried to drag me into some bushes, but I managed to break free and reach the door. Casey's mother opened the door. Seeing the fear on my face, she immediately pulled me inside and locked the door. I ran to Casey. I was out of breath and my heart was pounding uncontrollably. After asking me a few questions, Casey's mother called the police. They let me stay at their house that night and took me home the next day. It was a dangerous, rainy night. My family was busy doing their own things at home. I was in my room watching TV. My parents were watching a comedy show in the living room, and my sibling was upstairs playing video games. I usually enjoy rainy nights because they feel peaceful. But suddenly, someone started violently banging on the door. I opened the door and looked outside. A woman was standing there. She was completely soaked from the rain and screaming for help. Just as I was about to open the door, I had a bad feeling. Then the phone rang. It was our neighbor. My mother answered. The neighbor sounded panicked. "Stay away from the door!" She didn't explain why, but we could tell from her voice that something serious was going on. She said she had seen a man hiding near our house, holding a large object. My father immediately went to the door and shouted. At that moment, both the woman outside and the hidden man disappeared. When the police arrived, they found a large knife in the area. When I was younger, I was watching cartoons one night at home. The volume was loud, but I could still hear my mother calling me from downstairs. I couldn't clearly understand what she was saying because she wasn't responding. So I went downstairs. But the lights were off, and my mother wasn't there. When I started going back upstairs, I heard her voice again. This time she was calling me from downstairs again. I went back down, turned on the lights, but again, no one was there. At that moment, I started getting scared. I went back upstairs and started crying. Just then, my mother actually came and asked why I was crying. She said she hadn't called me, but I'm still sure I heard her voice. One night, my father told me something that happened to him. He had a small Boston Terrier dog named Sherry. My father lived in a rural area. There weren't many people around. Every evening, he would take his dog for a walk. One night during a walk, the dog suddenly stopped and stared into the darkness. When my father looked, he noticed someone watching them from far away. The man wasn't moving. He was just standing there in the dark, staring at them. My father immediately turned around and quickly went back home. Last year, a man came to our door around 9 p.m. My mother opened it. We live in a very rural area, so it was already strange for a stranger to show up at our door. The man said he worked for a company and started talking about American products. Then he went to his van and brought out a large black bag. My mother noticed there were several other men inside the van. She immediately ran to me and told me to grab my phone. A few days earlier, I had gone camping and skiing in the mountains with my friend Q. We were having a good time. At one point, while skiing down a large hill, we lost each other. I thought we would meet at the bottom. I called him on the walkie-talkie, but he didn't respond. After a while, I met another skier carrying equipment. He was wearing a mask but sounded very friendly. He asked me about the best slopes and whether we were camping. His skis were attached to an orange backpack. I showed him the slope I had just come down and pointed toward our campsite. He said he and his wife were looking for a place to camp near other people and asked if I could guide him to our campsite. I didn't really want to go back, but I felt I should help. I told Q on the walkie-talkie that I would briefly return to the campsite. The man started following me. At that moment, I heard static on the walkie-talkie. It was probably Q trying to reach me, but the connection was very bad. After walking and talking for a while, we reached the campsite. I turned to him and smiled under my ski mask, but I immediately realized it was pointless. He sounded very thankful. Then I asked him, "Where is your wife?" He didn't answer. He started walking toward me. At first I didn't think much of it, but then I noticed his skis and backpack looked familiar. They belonged to Q. For a moment, I thought it was a joke, but that was impossible. The voice was not Q's. The man was now only a few steps away, and his movements became more threatening. I panicked, jumped into my tent, and tried to grab my flare gun from my bag. Suddenly, the man grabbed my leg from outside the tent. I felt a sharp pain. It felt like an electric shock, followed by a burning sensation. The man had stabbed my leg. While screaming in pain, I managed to pull out my flare gun and aim it at him. He immediately stepped back and raised his hands. That's when I realized the knife was still stuck in my leg. I asked him where my friend was. He quickly replied, "Down the slope where I first saw you." I told him not to move and called 911, but he ran away while I was on the phone. I waited in the tent with my bleeding leg. Finally, I heard the sound of a rescue helicopter and fired my flare gun into the sky. The helicopter found us. My friend was brought out on a stretcher. He was seriously injured, stabbed twice. He later told me he had tried to contact me on the walkie-talkie, but the signal was too bad. We were both taken to the hospital, but we survived. I lived in a small college town, and my apartment was very close to bars. One night I was sitting on the porch, smoking and reading a book. A girl who lived in the downstairs apartment came home. Just as she was about to enter, a man appeared and started talking to her. It was strange because it was around 2:30 a.m. I decided to watch the situation. They talked for about 10 minutes. The girl was trying to leave, but the man kept stopping her. At one point, he tried to get closer to her. Then he noticed me and realized I was watching. After that, his behavior became even more strange. We eventually called the police. A few days later, the girl and I gave statements to a sketch artist with the police. It turned out the man was following women who left bars alone and trying to walk them into isolated areas. That girl was very lucky because she lived so close to home. But I had only used Craigslist once in my life, and that experience was enough for me. A man was selling a ping pong table. My friend and I wanted to buy it. We arranged to pick it up that night, but my friend couldn't come at the last minute. So I had to go alone. When I arrived at the house, the man invited me inside. I reached out to shake his hand, but he ignored it. There was something strange about the house. It didn't smell bad or look messy, but there was an unsettling feeling inside. The ping pong table was in the middle of the living room. The man said, "I need to find the paddles," and went upstairs. He told me to wait there. While I was waiting, I started looking at the photos on the wall. But all of them were just of him. No family. No friends. Not even a pet. Only pictures of himself. About 10 minutes passed, but he still hadn't come back. The door at the end of the hallway was slightly open. I looked inside. There were boxes filled with photos of children. I froze. At that moment, I heard footsteps from upstairs. The man was coming back down. I walked straight to the door without saying anything. The man started rushing down the stairs. I ran outside, got in my car, and drove straight to the police. I told them everything, including the address. A while later, the police contacted me again. They said the man was part of a network connected to child exploitation on the dark web. I still don't know why he called me to his house. But it was clearly nothing good. When I was 15 years old, I was babysitting a 6-year-old boy named Cody. His father told me that Cody sometimes behaved strangely. He said Cody would talk to himself and had an imaginary friend. On a rainy night, Cody was playing with his toys. After a while, he started repeating a name. Agnes. It was like he was talking to someone. He moved his toys around as if he was playing with someone invisible. Then one of the toys moved on its own. I froze. I was shocked. I asked Cody how he did that. He calmly said, "Agnes did it." Hearing that gave me chills. I took the toy from him and turned it off. Late at night, I was waiting for his parents to return. Suddenly, I heard a knock at the door. "Cody?" I called out. I opened the door, but no one was there. At the end of the hallway, the door slowly started opening by itself. I quickly closed it and ran to Cody's room. I thought he was trying to scare me, but Cody was sitting in the corner of the room, staring at me. I asked him, "Did you open the door?" He only said, "Agnes." I was really scared. I took Cody out of the room and kept him with me in the living room until his parents arrived. I never went back to that job again. That night, while I was waiting for Cody's parents, we were alone in the house. Everything seemed normal, but I had a strange feeling of unease. After a while, there was a sound at the front door. It sounded like someone knocking. "Cody?" I called out, but there was no answer. I opened the door. No one was outside. Just as I was about to turn back, I saw the door at the end of the hallway slowly opening again by itself. I froze. I immediately closed the door and went to Cody's room. Cody was sitting on the couch, staring at me without moving. I asked him, "Did you open the door?" He only said, "Agnes." At that moment, I was truly scared. I took Cody out to the living room and stayed with him until his parents arrived. I didn't fully tell them what had happened. When they came home, they acted like everything was normal. But I couldn't forget that feeling inside me. I never went back to that house again, and I never babysat Cody again. Today's stories end here. If you've watched this far, thank you. If you enjoy true scary stories like this, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next stories. And remember, some things don't leave your mind even after they're told.